Here are the new laws effective January 1st, 2023, the bills on the docket that affect homeownership, and how your local realtors are working with legislators to improve housing options, housing affordability, and lowering costs for you. Hi, I'm Francine Viola, Realtor in Olympia, Washington, and if you are considering a move to the Olympia area or to Washington State, here are a few of the new laws effective January 1st, 2023 that could impact you. Washington now has the highest state minimum wage in the United States of $15.74 an hour. This is an increase of 9% from last year. There are 3 other states with minimum wages at or over $15 an hour, and those are California, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. This new law means some employers might have to provide overtime to some employees who were previously treated as exempt. In other cases, employers may need to increase salaries for exempt employees. This year, workers in agriculture will need to work 48 hours per week before getting overtime. Next year, they can receive overtime pay once they reach 40 hours a week. Rideshare drivers who work for companies like Uber and Lyft will have minimum per mile, per minute, and per trip rates for drivers. Drivers will also have the right to paid sick leave and workers' compensation. Those protections are only for drivers driving passengers. This does not apply to drivers delivering food or goods. The Washington legislative session begins January 9th, 2023, and Washington realtors have several bills they will be working on to get passed. A big one is revising agency law. If passed, this bill would make it a requirement for buyers working with licensed real estate agents to have a signed buyer agency agreement. This concept is similar to the written listing agreements agents have with their sellers. This buyer agency agreement is meant to provide transparency and clarity of the legal duties of the buyer agent, how the buyer agent gets paid, and gives the agent permission from the buyer to negotiate with the seller on the commission. A leaseback is where the seller would remain in the home after the sale closes and the seller now becomes a tenant. This leaseback period could be for a day or it could be for a couple of months, yet regardless, the parties currently have to sign a lease agreement and the lease terms fall under the Landlord-Tenant Act. This is problematic because this is not a typical landlord-tenant situation. For example, during the pandemic, our new regulations were put in place regarding evictions. I would have to advise my buyers who allowed a seller to remain in the home after closing that if the seller did not move out, they, as the new owner, would have to go through a lengthy eviction process. For a home sale in a leaseback situation, these regulations do not make sense. The other bills Washington realtors are working on involve improving housing supply and having more affordable housing options. In Washington, there is a high amount of liability on condo developers. Therefore, new condos are not being built, and this reduces not only the number of housing units available, but also reduces the number of lower-priced housing options. Realtors are also pushing for a condominium tax incentive for certain qualified first-time homebuyers. Some counties in Washington are only allowing attached ADUs to be built instead of smaller detached ADUs. Realtors are pushing legislators to allow rural homeowners to build and permit detached ADUs. Currently, for most residential plats, developers are only permitted to build single-family homes. This bill, if passed, would give developers the option to build neighborhood-compatible multifamily units, which would offer more units and lower-cost units for buyers. The other bills Washington realtors are working on are streamlining the permit process when building to lower costs and the time to get permits, lot splitting, and transit-oriented development. Stay tuned as the year progresses to see if these bills pass. I am a realtor and I belong to the national, state, and county realtor organizations. Not all licensed agents are realtors. This is an important distinction because it is the realtor organization that advocates for buyers, sellers, and homeowners. It is the realtor organization that is working closely with our local government to pass bills that can help buyers in creating more housing and less expensive housing options, that can help homeowners and sellers reduce costs and stop bills that make buying, building, and selling properties more expensive. In fact, it was the hard work of realtors that lowered the excise tax that Washington sellers pay when they sell a home. Whoever hears of a tax going down? Realtors got it done. Realtors were also successful in getting all real property exempted from the state's new capital gains tax. This is money that goes back into your pocket. Other wins realtors were successful in fighting were bills that were stopped. Last year, Realtors lobbied against changes to the seller disclosure statement that would have put untold liability for sellers for the lifetime of the property. Another bill that was overturned was charging developers and thus buyers increased ecological fees. As a realtor and a homeowner myself, I am grateful for the Realtor organization working with legislators to make good long-term decisions. If you choose to work with an agent for your buying or selling, work with an agent who is also a realtor and who is involved in the organization that is working for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.